The air in Bangkok that February night in 1971 felt thick enough to chew. Heat wrapped around everything like a heavy blanket, pressing down on Lumpini Stadium, the most revered Muay Thai arena in all of Thailand. Inside, 3,000 souls crammed into creaky wooden bleachers, their bodies slick with sweat. The smell of tiger balm, cigarette smoke and liniment hung heavy, mixing with the buzz of excitement and the distant roar of the city outside. This wasn't just any fight night. This was the main event everyone had been whispering about for weeks. Up in the VIP section, Thai royalty sat on plush red silk cushions trimmed with gold, watching from a respectful distance. Below them, the real pulse of the night beat strong. Local gangsters flashing hand signals to place bets, wide-eyed tourists clutching cameras, and martial artists who had travelled from every corner of Asia just to breathe the same air as living legends. In the centre of it all, under harsh overhead lights that turned the ring into a bright island, stood Nong Mai, the Iron Rose. They called her that because she was both beautiful and terrifying. At 25 years old, she carried 70 professional fights on her shoulders, and every single one had ended in victory. No losses, no draws, not even a close call. She was the undefeated queen of women's Muay Thai, holder of the longest winning streak anyone had ever seen. 5 feet tall and 145 pounds of pure, sculpted power. She had crushed every challenger, men, women, it didn't matter. 32 knockouts, countless broken bones, shattered dreams, and hospital visits left in her wake. Fighters who stepped in against her often left carrying pieces of their careers that would never heal. Her story started in a poor village outside Chiang Mai when she was just 17. Now, 8 years later, no one in Thailand dared face her anymore. But tonight felt different. The promoters had something special planned. Not another title defense, but a big exhibition to show the world that Thai women could fight at the highest level. They wanted to bridge old traditions with new ideas, to prove Muay Thai belonged to everyone. Nong Mai stood tall in the middle of the ring, wearing deep red silk shorts with shining gold trim. A sacred mongkon headband blessed by monks at the temple rested on her forehead. Her body told the story of endless hard work. Arms forged from thousands of hours of training, shoulders broad and strong, legs like thick bamboo from kicking banana trees until the trunks cracked and gave up. Her shins were weapons now, hardened by years of punishment. Scars marked her skin like badges of honor, each one a reminder of the price she had paid. The crowd fell into a respectful hush as she began the Y Crew ritual dance. Every movement honored her teachers, her gym, and the ancient spirit of Muay Thai. 3,000 pairs of eyes watched in silence. This was holy ground. When she finished, she lifted her gaze and scanned the sea of faces. Some looked hungry for blood, others curious, a few openly doubtful. Western journalists sat in the front rows, notebooks open, cameras ready, waiting to see if this undefeated champion was the real deal or just local hype. Nong Mai didn't care about their opinions. She had proven herself 70 times already. Tonight she would make it 71 and silence the doubters forever, especially those who whispered that her wins only counted because she fought other women. The promoter, a round man in a sweat-soaked expensive suit, climbed into the ring. He grabbed the microphone, his voice booming with excitement and a touch of nerves. "Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, tonight we are blessed to witness something truly special. Our undefeated champion, Nong Mai, with 70 straight victories, will choose a volunteer from this very audience. Anyone, man or woman, any size, any background. She will show the power and beauty of traditional Muay Thai against whatever challenge steps forward." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Champions didn't usually risk their records like this. What if some lucky nobody landed a lucky shot? What if her perfect streak ended in front of everyone? But Nong Mai had insisted. She was tired of the doubts, tired of people saying she couldn't handle real competition. Tonight, she would settle it once and for all. The promoter continued, wiping sweat from his brow. "She will walk among you and pick someone completely at random. No setups, no planning. Pure demonstration." He nodded to Nong Mai. She slipped through the ropes and dropped lightly to the floor. The crowd pulled back as she began walking slowly down the aisles, her eyes moving across faces with calm focus. People avoided her gaze. No one wanted to be the one. Section after section passed. Drunk locals, camera-happy tourists, families with kids. Then she reached a row filled with serious martial artists who had come to study and observe. Her steps slowed. Something felt right here. Her eyes settled on one man sitting quietly in row 12. He was small, maybe 5'7", around 140 pounds, dressed in simple dark clothes, Asian features, calm expression, not chatting or drinking like the others. He just sat there, present and still, like he belonged to a different rhythm. Nongmai pointed straight at him. "You, come down." The people around him turned, shocked. They nudged and whispered urgently, "She picked you. Get up." One man next to him looked panicked and leaned in, speaking quickly in English. "You don't have to do this, man. Seriously." The small man shook his head gently. "It's fine," he whispered back. He stood up, and the whole stadium got a clear look. Laughter started bubbling up immediately. This was the volunteer. This skinny guy in street clothes. No muscles showing, no fighter's build, no wraps on his hands. He looked more like someone who wandered in from the street than a challenger. The laughter grew louder, rolling through the bleachers in Thai and broken English. Jokes flew. "Poor guy is about to become a highlight reel," cameras flashed. Western journalists scribbled furiously. This was gold. Nongmai didn't understand the jokes. She had chosen from the heart, trusting her instincts. In Muay Thai, size and looks didn't tell the whole story. Heart and skill did. She gestured for him to join her in the ring. The man made his way down the steps with easy, fluid steps, not rushing, not showing fear. The laughter followed him, but he ignored it, walking straight toward the bright lights. The promoter leaned down, whispering worriedly to Nongmai in Thai. "Are you sure? He looks so small and weak. This might not be the showcase we wanted." She shrugged. "I chose him. We go forward." As the small man reached the ring and climbed through the ropes, the promoter switched to English for the international crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, our volunteer. Sir, please step inside." Under the harsh lights, he looked even more out of place in his dark slacks and button-up shirt, like he was heading to a quiet dinner instead of a fight. The promoter held out the microphone. "Sir, what is your name?" The man took it calmly, his voice quiet but steady with a gentle accent. "Bruce Lee." The name didn't ring any bells for most people there, just another name. The promoter smiled awkwardly and asked, "Any fighting experience, Mr. Lee?" "Some. Chinese martial arts, Wing Chun, and my own approach." "Your own system?" "Yes. Jeet Kune Do." The crowd chuckled again. It sounded made up, like something a tourist would say to sound tough. This was going to be quick and one-sided. Everyone settled in for the show, the mighty iron rows about to teach a random volunteer a memorable lesson. But something in the air had already shifted. A quiet spark had been lit in the middle of that hot Bangkok night, and no one yet realized how brightly it would burn. The small man stepped fully into the ring, and the bright lights hit him like a spotlight on a stage he never asked for. He stood there in his simple dark clothes, looking completely out of place among the sweat, the resin, and the roar of expectation. The promoter, still sweating through his suit, tried to keep things light. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our volunteer, Mr. Bruce Lee." A few polite claps mixed with more laughter. The Thai crowd was enjoying the mismatch. This tiny guy against their iron rows. It felt like a joke the universe had set up just for them. Nongmai watched him closely. She had chosen him on instinct, and now she felt a small flicker of curiosity. Most volunteers showed fear the moment they climbed through the ropes. This one didn't. The promoter held the microphone closer. "Mr. Lee, any fighting experience?" Bruce's voice stayed calm and clear. "Some. I practice Chinese martial arts, Wing Chun mostly, and I've developed my own way of moving, Jeet Kune Do." Nobody in the stadium had heard those words before. They sounded foreign and strange. More chuckles rippled through the seats. The journalists leaned forward, smelling an easy story. Undefeated champion destroys overconfident tourist. Perfect headline material. The promoter looked relieved when Nongmai nodded that she was ready. He announced the rules loudly. "This is a demonstration only. 3-minute round, light contact. We show technique and respect. No one gets hurt. Understood?" Both fighters nodded. The old referee, face-lined from years under the same lights, called them to the center. He explained the rules again in Thai and then in rough English. They touched gloves, a small moment of respect, and Nongmai looked straight into Bruce's eyes. What she saw surprised her. No fear, no tension, just clear, peaceful focus. Most people facing her looked like cornered animals. This man looked like he was exactly where he wanted to be. They returned to their corners. The bell rang sharp and clear, cutting through the humid air. Nong Mai moved first, stepping forward in her classic Muay Thai stance. Weight on the back leg, hands high, ready for anything. She had 70 fights worth of experience flowing through her veins. She knew every pattern, every trap, every way to break an opponent. She started simple, a quick jab to test him. Bruce's head tilted just a fraction. The punch whispered past his cheek by inches. The crowd murmured. Lucky, they thought. She followed with a sharp combination. Jab, cross, low kick. Her kick cut through the air with power that had ended many careers. But Bruce wasn't there anymore. He had shifted smoothly, almost like water sliding around a rock. The kick hit nothing but empty space. Nong Mai reset, circling. This wasn't the clumsy movement of a tourist. His footwork was different, alive, adaptive, never wasting energy. She pressed harder. A strong knee shot toward his body. Bruce's hand dropped lightly, meeting the knee and guiding it just enough to bleed away its power. It wasn't a hard block. It felt more like control. She'd never felt anything quite like it. Before she could think, she launched an elbow, one of her sharpest weapons. Bruce slipped inside the strike, suddenly too close for her to use her longer techniques. His fingers brushed her shoulder, soft and precise. Then he was gone again, back at range. The message was quiet but unmistakable. He could have hit her. He chose not to. The laughter in the stands started to fade. People sat up straighter. This wasn't the quick destruction they had come for. Nong Mai felt it too. This man could actually fight, and he was showing her respect by not hurting her. Her pride stirred. She hadn't built a 70-fight winning streak by being gentle. She came from hard earth and harder training. She attacked again, this time with more fire. Combinations of punches, kicks and elbows that had made her champion. Each strike carried years of discipline. Bruce moved through them like a leaf in the wind. He slipped, redirected, turned her own force against her without ever meeting strength with strength. Every attack missed by the smallest distance, close enough to feel dangerous, but never landing clean. The arena grew quieter. 3,000 people who had come to cheer their hero now watched something they couldn't quite name. The small man in street clothes wasn't getting hit. He wasn't even breathing hard. Nong Mai poured everything into her next attack, the jumping knee that had won her so many victories. She exploded forward, powerful and committed. Bruce stepped off the line at the perfect moment. His hand touched her knee lightly as it passed, guiding it harmlessly by. She landed slightly off balance. In that split second he could have ended it. A sweep, a strike, anything. But he did nothing. He simply stepped back and waited, patient as still water. Nong Mai's chest rose and fell faster now. Sweat glistened on her skin. She understood something important in that moment. This wasn't luck. This man was playing at a completely different level. He was showing her his skill while holding back, offering mercy instead of punishment. It stung her pride, but it also woke something deeper. Respect mixed with fierce determination. She attacked with everything she had left in the round. Full power, full heart, the techniques that had built her legend. Punches that snapped like whips, kicks like thunder, elbows and knees meant to break through any defense. Bruce flowed around it all. He made her miss by millimeters, turning her aggression into empty air. The crowd had gone almost completely silent. They had come for blood and entertainment. Instead, they were watching their undefeated champion look almost ordinary against this unknown visitor. The clock ticked past 90 seconds. Nong Mai threw another committed jumping knee, putting her full power behind it. This time, Bruce didn't evade. He stepped inside the strike with perfect timing. His left hand controlled her knee. His right hand rose fast and stopped, 1 inch from her throat. Perfect. Controlled. Deadly if he had wanted it to be. The referee blew the whistle immediately and jumped between them. The demonstration round was over. Bruce stepped back smoothly and offered a respectful bow. Nong Mai stood there, breathing hard, sweat pouring down her face, a storm of emotions swirling inside her. She hadn't landed a single clean hit, not one, and this man had chosen to stop short of hurting her. The whole stadium sat in stunned silence. Their champion hadn't lost, but she clearly hadn't won either. Something profound had just happened in the middle of that bright ring, and the night would never be the same again. The whistle still echoed in the thick air as the referee stood between them, arms raised. For a long moment, the entire stadium seemed to hold its breath. 3,000 people who had been laughing and joking just minutes earlier now sat in stunned quiet. Their iron rose, the woman who had never been touched, never been beaten, never even been challenged like this, stood breathing heavily, staring at the small man who had just rewritten everything they thought they knew. Bruce lowered his hand and bowed deeply, a gesture full of genuine respect. Nong Mai stayed rooted for a second longer, her mind racing. She had thrown her best techniques, the ones that had built her entire legacy, and none of them had found their mark. He could have ended her undefeated streak right there in front of everyone, in her own country, under her own lights. But he hadn't. He had chosen kindness instead. The promoter climbed back into the ring, his expensive suit now completely soaked. He looked lost for words, which was rare for a man who made his living talking. He grabbed the microphone and tried to steady the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen, that was an interesting demonstration. Two very different styles meeting tonight. Let's give a big hand to both fighters for showing us skill and sportsmanship." The applause started slow and uncertain, then grew. It wasn't the wild cheering of victory or the roar after a knockout. It was something warmer, real appreciation for what they had just witnessed, even if they didn't fully understand it yet. Nong Mai walked over to Bruce. She bowed low and formal, the kind of bow you give someone who has earned deep respect. He returned it with equal sincerity. Then she spoke softly in Thai, her voice carrying the weight of the moment. The promoter translated quickly. She asks, "Who are you really? What is that style? Where did you learn to move like that?" Bruce answered calmly in English, and the promoter turned it into Thai for her. "I study many different martial arts. I take what works and leave what doesn't. I'm always trying to understand fighting at its deepest level." Nong Mai's eyes searched his face. "You could have beaten me. You could have ended everything right here. Why didn't you?" Bruce's reply was simple and honest. "Because this was a demonstration, not a real fight. I have no wish to harm you or damage your reputation. You are clearly a great champion who has earned every victory." When the promoter translated, something in Nong Mai's expression softened. The fire of competition gave way to quiet understanding. She stepped forward and offered her hand, not the traditional Thai greeting, but a Western handshake, a bridge between their worlds. Bruce took it firmly. In that handshake, two different martial arts traditions, two different cultures, and two proud warriors found common ground. The applause grew louder now. Real clapping. People were moved, not by blood or dominance, but by the beauty of mutual respect. It felt bigger than the fight itself. As Bruce turned to climb out of the ring and head back to his seat, the whispers started spreading like wildfire through the bleachers. Who was that man? Where did he come from? Did you see how he moved? The same people who had laughed at him earlier now watched with new eyes. Some looked embarrassed, others looked inspired. The man who had been sitting next to Bruce, the one who had urgently whispered warnings before the fight, leaned over as Bruce settled back into his seat. "That was incredible," he said, voice low. "But you just made Thailand's national champion look ordinary on her home soil. We should probably slip out quietly before things get uncomfortable." Bruce shook his head with a small smile. "I didn't embarrass her. I showed her respect. There's a big difference." His friend looked doubtful. The crowd might not see it that way. "Then maybe the crowd still has something to learn," Bruce replied gently. They decided to stay for the rest of the event. No one bothered them. No angry words, no challenges. But eyes kept drifting toward their seats. People were thinking, processing, trying to make sense of what they had seen. After the final bouts ended and the crowd began to thin out into the humid Bangkok night, a small group of young Thai fighters approached them. They were students from different gyms around the city, hungry, serious, and clearly moved by what they had witnessed. They bowed politely, speaking in careful, broken English. "Master, what we saw tonight was special. Can you teach us, even a little, show us some of that style?" Bruce looked at them thoughtfully. "I'm only in Bangkok for a few days. I came for some film meetings. But tomorrow, if you want, I can share a few principles. Not a full class, just some ideas about movement, about being effective, about adapting like water." Their faces lit up with excitement. They exchanged contact details eagerly and promised to bring others. That night, as Bruce and his friend walked through the busy streets, the city lights reflecting off puddles from an earlier rain, the conversation turned deeper. His friend, still processing everything, finally spoke. "You know they're going to be talking about this for a long time." Bruce shrugged lightly. "Let them talk. I honoured the choice she made when she picked me. That's all." "You made a 70-fight champion look like she was just beginning. That's not nothing." "No," Bruce said. "I simply showed her another way of seeing the fight. There's a difference between proving you're better and helping someone grow." The two men walked in comfortable silence for a while, letting the energy of the night settle around them. Then his friend asked the question that had been sitting with him. What if she had actually landed something? What if she was better than you expected? Bruce stopped walking for a moment and looked out at the glowing streets. Then I would have learned something valuable. That's why we accept challenges, not just to show what we can do, but to discover what we don't know yet. And what did you learn tonight? Bruce smiled. That Muay Thai is powerful and beautiful, that she is a true warrior who earned every part of her reputation, and that respect will always matter more than dominance. Back at their hotel later that night, sleep didn't come easily for Bruce. He sat by the window, looking out over the city, replaying the demonstration in his mind. Not the techniques, but the feeling behind them. The choice he had made to hold back. The lesson he hoped at least a few people would carry with them. The real challenges of that evening weren't just in the ring. They were in the heart. Choosing wisdom over ego, connection over conquest, teaching over winning. And in those quiet moments after the lights dimmed, both fighters in their own ways were already rising to meet them. The next morning, the Bangkok sun rose hot and bright, but the real heat was in a quiet gym on the edge of the city. 20 Thai fighters showed up early, eager and a little nervous. They came from different camps, young men with calloused knuckles and hungry eyes, carrying the dreams of their gyms on their shoulders. Word had spread quietly through the martial arts community overnight. The small man from the stadium had agreed to share something special. Bruce arrived simply dressed, the same calm presence he had shown in the ring. No big speeches, no showing off. He started by watching them move, then gently corrected stances, showed them how to flow instead of forcing power. He talked about Wing Chun principles, centerline control, economy of motion. Then he opened up about his own path, Jeet Kune Do, using what works, discarding what doesn't, being like water that shapes itself to any container, but can also crash through stone. Style doesn't matter in the end, he told them, demonstrating with slow, clear movements. What matters is effectiveness, adaptation, understanding your opponent so deeply that you don't need to destroy them, be formless, shapeless, like water. The fighters absorbed every word. They drilled simple concepts for hours, redirecting force, using minimal effort for maximum effect, staying centered no matter what comes. One young man in particular stayed close, asking thoughtful questions. He was a serious student who would later become one of Thailand's most respected trainers. He never forgot that afternoon. For the rest of his life, he told his own students about the day Bruce Lee came to Bangkok and made our champion look human, not by beating her, but by showing her something bigger. 4 hours passed like minutes. Bruce gave everything he could in that short time, asking for nothing in return. No money, no fame, just the joy of sharing knowledge and watching understanding bloom in their eyes. When it was time to leave, the fighters bowed deeply, thanking him with voices full of gratitude. They left changed, carrying new tools, but more importantly, a new way of thinking about their art. Meanwhile, Nong Mai was back in her own world. She continued fighting after. The story of that humid February night in 1971 didn't end when the lights went down at Lumpini Stadium. It kept living in the hearts of those who were there, quietly shaping lives long after the crowd had gone home. For Bruce, the real victory wasn't the flawless control he showed in the ring. It was the way the moment opened doors for understanding between people who might never have crossed paths otherwise. That same night, back in their simple hotel room, Bruce still couldn't sleep. He sat by the open window, letting the warm night breeze carry the distant sounds of Bangkok, motorbikes buzzing, street vendors calling, the endless heartbeat of a city that never really rests. Dan stirred awake and sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Still thinking about it?" Dan asked. Bruce nodded. "I keep seeing that last moment. I could have landed the strike, made it loud and clear for everyone watching, but that would have been about ego, about proving something, not about the art itself." Dan leaned forward. "You held back for her sake?" "I held back for all of us," Bruce said softly. "For what martial arts should really stand for. Respect, growth, not just winning at any cost." Dan smiled in the dim light. He had travelled with Bruce for years and knew this wasn't just talk. This was the man behind the legend, a teacher first, a fighter second. Every action carried intention. Every choice was a lesson offered to anyone willing to see it. "They'll never fully understand what you did," Dan said. Bruce shrugged gently. "That's okay. The right people will, the ones who are really paying attention. The rest, it doesn't matter as much." In the days and years that followed, the true victory became clear. Nong Mai carried the memory like a quiet treasure. As she trained new generations of fighters, she would stop sessions and share the story in her own words. He was smaller, lighter, and knew less about our Muay Thai ways. Yet he moved like he understood fighting itself. He showed me that power without wisdom is hollow, that the greatest strength is knowing when not to use it. Real victory isn't destroying the person across from you. It's understanding them so well that no destruction is needed. Her students listened wide-eyed. Many went on to become champions themselves, carrying that philosophy into their own journeys. The Iron Rose's legacy grew richer because of that one night, not weaker. She retired undefeated, but more importantly, she retired wiser. The 20 young fighters who trained with Bruce the next day became messengers. They practiced the principles of fluidity and adaptation in their gyms. They taught their own students to look beyond styles and borders. One of them, that thoughtful young man who asked so many questions, spent the next 40 years telling the story correctly. Bruce Lee didn't come to Bangkok to win a fight. He came and showed us all what fighting could become when it's guided by heart and mind. The Western journalists got parts of it right, but missed the soul. Their stories talked about spectacle and cultural moments. They never quite captured the deeper truth.